Chapter 1. I limped in my office door, filthy and a little bloody. I should definitely consider killing the woman that talked me into being a bounty hunter. What was I thinking? Chasing down other supernaturals and magical items sounded like fun. It is most definitely not fun. But here I was, covered in blood, dirt, muscles aching and bruises setting in. I hadn't had a job in almost a month, so I had to take this last case. Hunting down a fucking rogue. I mean, if a shifter wants to go off on their own, who am I to judge? Not everyone has a group mentality. I certainly don't. I downright fucking hate people sometimes. But he was underage and his pack wanted him back, so I got him back. I delivered the shifter kid back to his people. A little banged up. They paid. After one of them kicked my ass. Shifters are loyal to the core, but so temperamental. After spilling into my chair, I reached into the drawer and pulled out a bottle of Jameson, uncapped the golden nectar, and took a good long pull. It burned. I coughed. Still, I took another swig. Being a mage, I could heal as soon as the sun came out tomorrow. Until then, I'd just have to live with the pain. The bell rang as the office door opened. A small man stood with his hands folded in front of his belt. Though it hurt, I forced myself to stand. "Can I help you?" His eyes widened as he took me in. "What on earth happened to you?" I grinned through the pain. "Shifters. Come on in and have a seat." He held up his hand. "No need. Are you—" He looked down at a slip of paper in his hand. "Maya Delacroix. Is that a summons?" I threw my hands in the air and plopped back in the chair, then tensed as a lightning bolt of pain shot through my ass and into my brain. He narrowed his beady little eyes at me. "Yes, you are to report to the Majiri at 8 o'clock sharp." I looked at the slip of paper as he placed it in front of me. The Majiri was summoning me. This couldn't be good. I just had my skills measured last year. What is this about? "Be there in the morning." He quirked a brow, then added, "Clean." The little shitbag waved his finger at me as if I were some steaming pile of dog crap on the sidewalk. Then he quickly ducked out the door, leaving me in a state of disbelief. The summons didn't say why I was being summoned, only that I was to be there in the morning without fail. One did not simply blow off the Majiri, so I did what any sane person would do. I grabbed my bottle of Jameson. After I locked the door, I trudged my tired ass out of the back of my office to the hall that led to the living quarters. I stripped out of my filthy clothes and stepped into the hot shower to wash the dirt and blood out of my hair and off my skin. Once clean, I pulled on a fresh pair of black leather pants and purple tank, then slid my clean leather coat on over that, wincing with every single move. It wasn't that I had a leather fetish. Quite the contrary. Leather could get uncomfortable, especially in the heat. But leather, real leather, offered protection from magic. No one really knew why. A witch told me years ago, after I was given my first spark, that the animal had been sacrificed, and that sacrifice offered some protection. She could have been full of shit. Who knows? I wound my hair into a messy bun, put on some mascara, and headed out to my favorite bar. A Knight's Tale was a meat market if it were anything, but they had two things I needed: good food and gossip. All sorts of supernaturals, or breed as we called ourselves, hung out there, from shifters and wizards to vamps and censors. I took a taxi since I planned on drinking the pain and stiffness away. I loved the place. It was the perfect balance of shadow, neon lights, good food, and better yet, a bit of debauchery. Sliding up to the bar, I still felt a little stiff. I was ready for my two favorite things, food and booze. "Hey, Nix," I said to the bartender. Nix was a shifter that turned into a phoenix. I had no idea if she had a real name. Her hair was the color of fire, blue, orange, red, and yellow. While that might sound gaudy, Nix pulled it off beautifully. She had metallic orange and purple eyeshadow that just set off her brilliant green eyes. "What'll you have?" she said as she wiped the bar down in front of me. "I'm starving. How about a burger and a beer? Something dark." She scooped a lager from the cooler in front of her, popped the top, and slid it over to me before shouting my order to the kitchen behind her. "Johnny's working, so it'll be fast. Thanks for settling your tab, by the way. I hate chasing down money." She gave me a big grin. "And the tip." Atlantis was a funny little city. The whole thing was warded off so that no humans could see it, making it hidden, or lost. The founders, with a very cliché sense of humor, named the city Atlantis. How unoriginal. But in Atlantis, cash was not used, nor was plastic. Everyone had breed identification. Accounts would be set up and your purchases would be charged to that account. You'd get weekly bills for your accounts and you'd approve the bank to pay the bill. The bank was run by goblins. Those little buggers were mean as shit. Immortals spend a lifetime acquiring wealth, and they want to keep that wealth safe. Goblins were the caretakers of that wealth because they were not only the most feared, but the most trusted. I'd run up a rather large tab. As soon as I'd gotten paid from the shifters, I had all my accounts settled. Thank God. Nix was very close to cutting me off. Work had been scarce, and my funds had run dangerously low. "Hello, darling." A 6-foot-tall man with blonde hair and black eyes with only a little blue still visible swaggered up next to me and leaned on the bar. "Looking good, Maya." The man, John Henry Holliday, better known as Doc, was giving me his best winsome smile. Doc had been turned vampire after his supposed death in 1887. A vampire stole his body and turned him to have a faithful sidekick. Doc had swagger, I'll give him that. He wore jeans, cowboy boots, and a dark t-shirt that fit him entirely too well. He constantly tipped a hat at the ladies, a hat he no longer wore. Turning slightly toward him, I returned his smile. "Hey, Doc, what's the good word?" "Well," he leaned in, "there's some witches sulking in the corner. Seems one of theirs was put in an eternity box today." "Eternity box?" He crossed his hands over his chest and closed his eyes. "Eternity box. You know, a coffin." "Ah, I see." Doc had a funny way of communicating, part 17th century, part current slang. Maybe he was trying too hard. I glanced over his shoulders to see a table of women with long faces. The younger witches had red eyes, puffy from tears if I had to guess. An older witch angrily picked at the label on her cider bottle. "Word is, you bagged a rogue today." Using his fingers, he fired his imaginary gun at me. He was just a kid trying to get out on his own, but I busted up his face, so I got my ass handed to me by his mother. They still paid, but I took a beating. He laughed. "I wonder what a mere child did to earn the wrath of a woman such as yourself." The little shit called me a cunt. I really hate that word. In kind, I broke his nose. Mommy Dearest was really working me over before that little detail was revealed. Then she chased her boy. The alpha paid, and I went on my way. Nick slid my platter across the bar, and I greedily scooped up the burger and took a large bite. "How's the cadaver sandwich?" His nose twitched at the aroma. Rumor was vampires could eat, they just didn't. I didn't care. The burger tasted like heaven. "Delicious," I said, after I chased my bite with a swig of beer. "What have you been up to lately? Anything good?" His lips spread into that charming smile. "You know me, darling. I'm not one to throw up too much dust." That was Doc's colorful way of saying he didn't brag. It took me forever to figure that out. I didn't know a whole lot about Doc. He worked for an organization that was called in when the authority, the governing body over all breed, needed assistance. They were a sort of black ops group. I didn't even know the name. It was all very secretive. Other than that, I knew he was the Doc Holliday, a vampire, and a panty dropper for the last couple of 100 years. He'd probably chased more tail than a busy veterinarian. and Doc had made tail chasing quite the art form. He rubbed his hands down his chest. I did not disturb your meal for idle chatter, rather to convey to you that there are certain, shall we say, anomalous happenings as of late. I tipped my beer back, emptying the bottle. In English, Doc? I said as I wiped beer foam off my lip. A shifter stepped on the other side of me, bellying up to the bar, waiting for Nix to take his order. Darlin', Doc said, abruptly changing his demeanor, I bet you taste like ambrosia. The man on the other side of me leaned back to look around me to Doc. What would a mage want with you? He huffed. Stick to your own kind, vamp. Calm down, pup. I'm merely paying the lady a compliment. Doc gave me a wink. Nix poured a glass of whiskey and slid it to the shifter. Come on, Chase. No trouble in my bar. If she wants to talk to a blood-sucking vampire, that's her business. The shifter blew air through his nose and stormed off. Doc quickly turned and leaned his back against the bar, his gaze roaming the room as he spoke slowly. In plain English, as you so delicately put it, there's an uptick in demonic activity. Rumor has it they're looking for something or someone in particular. Also of note, there are rumors that some very valuable relics have come up missing in recent days. Eyes up, mage. Ears open. I bid you a good evening. I need to find someone to drink. He shoved off the bar as I took the last delicious bite of my sandwich. I watched over my shoulder as he swaggered over to a witch, who seemed entirely too eager for his company. Wait until he showed her his weapons. I never understood how the more human of their species could not recognize the predators. After my food, I ordered one of Nix's famous cocktails. You never knew what the hell she put in them, but they were always tasty and packed a hell of a punch. I took my tall, very blue drink to the pool tables and shot a few games against a wizard who was a little too cocky. Wizards were all cocky, at least with mages. They saw themselves above us, as if they had more power. I never cared, never backed down. I lost 2 games but got him in the 3rd. A glance at my phone told me it was time to get my ass in bed if I were going to get to the Madry in the morning. What in the hell did they want with me?